What does strength really look like? For our guest, it's years of dragon boat racing, coaching others to find their power, and navigating life with cerebral palsy. I'm Dr. J. Rutland, and today on the Health Exchange, we're joined by Rene Roberts-Nijinsky, athlete, author, advocate, and speaker. Renee was born with cerebral palsy and raised in a time when society didn't expect much from someone with severe disabilities. Today, we're talking about the science of cerebral palsy and how disability and athleticism aren't mutually exclusive. Let's get into it. Renee, nice to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. Listen, you've done so much. Like, you are an inspiration for a lot of people. But I want to get into cerebral palsy first. How long have you known you had cerebral palsy?
Well, it's congenital, so I was born with it. I was born at 28 weeks, 2 pounds, and not given any chance of survival. My parents were told if they liked my name, they should probably keep it for someone else because I wasn't going to live.
Wow.
So, it was pretty severe at that time. And then as far as awareness for me, I guess I knew pretty early on that I couldn't move like the other kids. I couldn't do the things that other kids could do. I didn't walk till I was 2, but I had a powerful voice
Yeah.
early on, and I used to just use it to boss people around to get what I wanted.
Yeah.
But pretty early on, I knew I was different.
When you think about cerebral palsy, when did you know exactly what it was scientifically?
Oh gosh, I was 13, and we lived in a 2-story house, and I was upstairs, and I heard my mom telling one of her friends that I had brain damage. And I flew down the stairs. I was so angry. How could you say that about me? What are you saying? And my mom was just kind of, taken aback that I was so angry. And then I thought, well, I have to read more about this. I have to learn more. And that's kind of when I understood that cerebral palsy was a damage to a part of the brain. And that's why my legs didn't work the way they should, and why I wore glasses, why, all the different things that I dealt with physically were as a result of damage to the brain, either at or before birth. And for me, I was born 28 weeks, at 28 weeks my mom's water broke, and when all you lose all your water, she was 4 months pregnant, you lose all your oxygen. Well, that causes cerebral palsy. So now as an adult, I know that that's when it happened. But at 13 is when I started to read about it and learn, oh, this is what this is.
So you heard your mother say you had brain damage, and then you heard the story about the doctor saying you may want to save this name for somebody else. How did those two things really make you feel?
Well, most of my teenage years, I was angry. I was angry that this was the lot that I had been given. I had 5 other siblings. They were all functional. I had 2 sisters that were very beautiful, didn't deal with, anything physical. And I was like gangly and, not very attractive. And it just, I was mad for a long time. And I lived inside of that anger, because is this really what how I'm supposed to live when I'm supposed to, my lot in life? But at about 15 and a half, I went on a retreat. And that's kind of when I really got like, oh, well, I could have died, should have died, and I didn't. So there must be a purpose here for me. There must be a purpose. And so that sort of shifted that anger from, this is what I got to, oh, this is what I got.
Where was the retreat?
It was a Catholic youth retreat, and it was like in, I don't know, Orange County somewhere
Yeah.
at a high school,
Yeah.
and it wasn't even for my age. It was most of the people there were older, but a friend recommended that I go, I think because she knew I was pretty miserable and maybe this would make a difference for me. And it really did, because it really opened my eyes to, oh, I'm here. You could say God, a higher power, or, chose me to be here, chose me for this path, and let's do something positive with it. And so it was a huge shift for me.
I mean, that's pretty interesting hearing that that shift took place for you at 15, 16 years old, right? As soon as it's almost like, what's the famous guy, Tony Robbins, saying like,
Yeah,
as soon as you realize that life is happening for you, not to you,
right.
it like immediately ends that pain and suffering. It
Completely.
sounds like that's what happened to you.
Completely. I knew then, oh, I was chosen here. I was chosen for this, right? So if you say, "Oh, well, you know, what is cerebral palsy?" Well, it's just me. That it's just me. And, people have said, "Oh, well, if we could take it away, would you give it?" No. No. I wouldn't give it away because it doesn't define me, but it is me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And when people, for you guys that don't understand what cerebral palsy is, so cerebral palsy actually stands for brain paralysis. And what it actually is it's a motor function disorder that develops either while a baby is in the womb, right after the baby is born, or something takes place after the baby is born where their brain isn't functioning correctly. So you heard Renee say earlier that she didn't get a lot of oxygen. So if you don't get a lot of oxygen, your brain uses glucose and oxygen to be able to function. And if you don't get that energy producing molecule to the brain, some of the brain cells die off, which is essentially what cerebral palsy is, right? And so you have different areas of the brain that are affected because of damage that takes place there. It could be the basal ganglia, right? It could be some of the brainstem. It could be the cerebellum, which is responsible for damage. Now, when you have different types of brain areas that are affected, you get different types of symptoms. And now, in Renee's case, again, what she heard, she was born at 28 weeks, which is the biggest risk factor for cerebral palsy, is prematurity. What you get with cerebral palsy in Renee's case is the doctors were guessing, right? They were trying to say things like, hey, listen, based upon the brain damage that we see on the CT scan and what she looks like right now, this is what we're expecting her to be. One of the things that we do as physicians is there are physicians that practice in certain ways. And so you can practice in a way in which either you're surprised as a physician or the patient and their family members are surprised. Now, the way that I practice, honestly, Renee, is I practice probably the same way that physician practices. I don't take away hope, but I do say, hey, listen, this is what I expect. And I'm kind of on the other end of the spectrum of like the worst possible outcome, because if you're surprised by something, I want you to be surprised by something positive,
Yeah,
right? And that's, as it turns out, what has happened with you, right?
absolutely.
You're an athlete, you're a coach, you're an advocate. Tell me about how you became all of that as well.
Well, I was that kid who thought that the Olympics were amazing. And I thought in my brain that I was going to be a gymnast someday, and I'm sure my parents and my siblings were like, okay, you crazy. But, I loved watching
Yeah.
sport. I loved watching these people achieve these wonderful, amazing things. I always read books about people who were the greatest athletes or, achieving things in sport. And so I thought, well, I can do that. And then you get to reality and you play on your first little sports team and you realize, oh yeah, no, I can't run from for, home base to first base, and I can't do all that stuff. Even though I wanted to will my body to do it, I couldn't do it. But I did that didn't make me stop wanting to, trying to. And it wasn't until I was like 40 years old, I was facing being in a wheelchair and I didn't want that. And I joined a gym and I made my boys go with me because I was using a cane and a walker. And
How
I
old were
didn't
the
want to do
boys?
that.
How old were the boys?
No, well, probably 10 and 15. And so they were like, all right, mom, whatever. And here she goes crazy again. Right. So I joined the gym and I started getting stronger. and I started feeling better, and I was swimming because that was low impact, and I was using the elliptical. I was doing all these things, kind of making it up as I went along. Then I hired a trainer, but I met this woman at the gym, and I saw her like swimming, and then she'd run, and then she'd go. And I stopped her one day. I said, "What are you doing? This is crazy." And she said, "Oh," she said, "I do these short distance triathlons." And she goes, "You should try it." And I looked at her like, "You are nuts."
Yeah.
But I started riding the stationary bike. I was swimming. I was on the elliptical. And this was like March. And I said, "I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it." And she told me about a women's triathlon that took place in Disneyland. And it was, a 1 mile swim, a, 14-mile bike, and a 3 mile run. And I was like, "I'm gonna do it." And I told everyone I knew that I was gonna do it, because if I didn't tell them, then I wouldn't be accountable. So I told all these people, "This is when it is, and I'm gonna do it." And I look for stuff like, how do I train? Write books for crazy women with disabilities to do triathlons. So I just kind of figured it out on my own.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
you know,
I mean, listen, everybody, you guys don't understand. Like, Renee has spastic cerebral palsy, which means that she has an increased muscle tone in her lower extremities. And so her muscle tone is one is which her lower extremity muscles are like constantly like contracting, right? And it's something that she can't control because of the nerve development as she was born, right? This is what happened. And so when you look at her, and again, I'm probably being prejudiced when I look at her and she's walking in this morning, I'm like, how does Renee have the physical ability to be able to be such a strong swimmer that she can swim for a mile, that she can bike for miles, that she can run for miles? And when I think about everything that you can do, you are the Olympics. So yeah, sure, you may not be there,
yeah.
but you represent what the Olympics represent, which is athletic accomplishment. And in someone that is born with the abilities or disabilities, and it sounds like you look at them more as abilities that you have, it's amazing. So, like, that first triathlon that you did, was there ever a point when you were running or biking or swimming where you're like, "I can't believe I'm doing this?"
was, when the one that I did was at Disneyland, and you swam in California Adventure. So they're playing music, Disney music. And so that's sort of like, okay. But, in the swim part, no problem,
Yeah.
right? People freak out. If you've ever seen a triathlon, people freak out in the swim. I was not freaking out. I was doing my thing.
When you say freak out, like, what do you mean by freaking
They're
out?
like, I need help. I need help. Like, I was doing a triathlon in Santa Barbara, and this woman, "Help me. I'm like, "Oh no, I can't help you." I'm like, I'll get the lifeguard." I swam over lifeguard. I'm like, "She need help over there." Because if someone grabs onto you, you're dust.
Yeah,
They're gonna drown you. I'm like, "I'll get you some help."
yeah.
Right? People freak out. My best friend wanted to do a triathlon with me after I had done a couple, and I took him out to Alamitos Bay, and we were gonna swim. I go, "We're just gonna swim along this swim area, a rope, and then we're gonna go up to the bridge." And he's like 6'4", I think. And
Does not have cerebral
no, does
palsy.
not have cerebral palsy, and grew up with a swimming pool in his backyard. So I'm thinking, this is cake, right?
Yeah.
We swim like, I don't know, maybe 5 feet. And he stops me. He's like, I'm out. I'm out." I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "This is freaking me out. I can't do it. I can't do it." And I go, "Yes, you can. Just keep swimming." He goes, "Renee, can you save me if I drown?" I go, "Probably not." And he's like, "I'm out." He goes, "Finish your training. I'll wait for you on the beach." And that was the end of that. So people freak out in the swim part.
Wow.
You know,
Have you ever had to coach somebody through freaking out, knowing that you have this disability that people can see? Have you ever, like, what do you say to these individuals who really don't have anything that you have had? Like, how do you speak to them? What do you say to them? If I'm in the water and I'm freaking out, and you are gonna take 30 seconds to say something to me to try to get me through it, what would you say?
I would just say, mostly I would say, "You got it. Just get out of your head. Get out of your head." Because it's here where we get in trouble. Like, the things that we say to ourselves in our head are what get us in trouble in anything, right? So if you can change that narrative inside your head, then you can do anything that you want. And I say all the time, like, I don't see myself as a person with a disability. I will walk by a mirror or a window and I'll be like, who's that? Because that's not who I see, right? And I think that that's what gets in most people's way. What's going on inside your head?
And then you became a coach, and almost like that was part of your career. And as we move into this aspect of the pod, tell me about the fitness specialist you became, the adaptive personal trainer, the certified inclusion coach.
That gives me a little more credit. What I did was I joined an adaptive dragon boat team. And I thought that it would be a place where, as a person with a disability, I would be on a team with other people with disabilities, and we would go out and we would paddle and we would be treated fairly. Well, it didn't turn out that way. The team that I started out with, when it came to winning, what they would do is they would sub out the people with disabilities for the coaches that didn't have disabilities.
Mm.
And that just it was gut-wrenching to me. It's like, that's not what this is about. That's not what this is how this should be. This was 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
And dragon boats is that like the current like famous meme right now where they got that little kid on there like dancing at the top of the boat and he's
It's
just
less, and it's a long wooden boat. It's a Chinese sport,
yeah.
right? And there's 22 people. So there's 10 on one side, 10 on the other side, and then a person who gives the directions in the front and the person who steers the boat in the back. And it was a good experience. It was something that, got me on the water. I was in a wheelchair when I started going, and they were great about, I said I could get out of the chair and into the boat. I just might have to fall out of the boat at the end. And I loved it. It was great. It was in the water in Long Beach and it was fun. But the politics of it is what had me say, this isn't okay. So that's when I started another team called Synergy. And what Synergy means is the coming together of two different groups for one common goal. And what I wanted was I wanted people with disabilities to really be the ones that were showcased, or the one, if you had a disability and you want to race on my team, you will always race on my team. I will never sub you out for someone who's not disabled and stronger and better and all that. Right. So on Synergy, there's people with disabilities, there's people with cancer, there's people that are deaf. And we had one person for a while that was blind, right? So anybody is welcome. It doesn't matter what age, but I'm not going to sub you out for someone more able so that we can win, right?
I mean your story is incredible, and as I sit here and listen to you, one of the most special people in my life was my grandmother, and she died peacefully at 95. She was completely blind, had retinitis pigmentosa, never saw me, and um,
She saw you.
yeah, she saw me,
Yeah.
and she had a tracheostomy. So she had an unmedically cared for tracheostomy since she was like 26 years old. But the thing about her, and this is you 100%, is she didn't give a shit that she was blind. She was on the treadmill every day,
Yeah.
running on the treadmill, walking on the treadmill, trying to do everything. There was a digital clock that she could read. And I'd always say, Grandma, what time is it? Make her feel good. She'd go
Yeah.
look at the clock and she could
69.
read the clock
Yeah.
and tell me. She'd
The
say,
numbers
six.
were this big.
Yes, she could say 6:08. And she'd be like, right? And she would
Got it.
clap, right? I got it. But I think for you, like you decided, you were like, hey, listen, these people are discriminating. Like, I'm just going to start my own team
Yeah.
and we're going to do it this way.
Right.
Right. And did that lead to, didn't you advise the Special Olympics? I mean, weren't you involved
No,
with?
so I wrote this is another political thing, right? The International Dragon Boat Federation asked me to come up with a resume and a job description for a person. They would call them a para advocate,
Mhm.
for someone who would intervene when the able-bodied people are making decisions on behalf of those with disabilities when it came to dragon boat. And that I had a huge issue with that. Like, you need to understand that people with disabilities sometimes don't tolerate the heat. Sometimes people with disabilities they would say things like, well, we have to get in and out of that boat within 2 minutes. And I'm like, you got blind people and you have people with physical disabilities and you're putting a time limit on it and you're making them feel like shit. Sorry. Can I
No,
cuss?
please. I
You
I
know?
like the color.
Yeah. So, and to me, that was just not okay.
Yeah.
Right? I almost backed out of my first national championship race because they said, we're loading boats on a dock, which I had never done. We load boats on the sand. So we're going to load boats on a moving dock and you got to get in and out of the boat in 2 minutes. And the night before we're leaving to go to Florida, I'm like, you guys, I'm out. I'm not going to penalize our team because I don't know that I can do that on a moving dock. And they're like, no, 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 we got it. Well, fortunately for me, one of the guys on our team was deaf, but he was like buff as anything. Renee, I got you. And so he would come over to me. We had to wear a PFD, like a life jacket. And he would just grab me by the PFD and set me down on the dock. Like, forget it. We're not worrying about the time. But my thing for writing this advocacy for these athletes is somebody needs to think about the things that they say. Somebody needs to think about the policies that they have in place that this federation wanted para athletes,
Yeah.
but you didn't think ahead about things that you're going to put these athletes through. You're trying to squeeze para athletes into your policies that fit everyone who doesn't have a disability. It's not okay. Right?
Yeah.
So I wrote that job description for them. I put together all these different ways that they could support para athletes. And, I was told, oh, yeah, okay, so you do all this work for us. And then when we go to Germany, we'll take you as the advocate. They took all my work, but they didn't take me as the advocate.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Where I hear all this passion, which seems to stem from Dragon Boat. How did you get into Dragon Boat in the first place? Where did that come from?
I was an elementary school teacher for 30 years, but I also taught part-time at Cerritos College. So I designed their class for in inclusion. So they had a class about disability, but they didn't have anything that spoke to inclusive education. So I wrote that class for them and I taught it for 20 years. Well, one of the things I told my students they could do is that if they wanted extra credit, they could have someone come into class and speak that had something to do with the world of disability. So one of my students, she said, I'm a dragon boater and there's a team and the coach of the dragon boat team, the adaptive dragon boat team, he said he'd come and speak to us. And I'm like, great, bring him in. So he came. I was using a wheelchair at the time. He spoke to the students. He's hoping to get college students, young, strong,
Yeah.
They weren't interested. But after class, I was talking to him and I said, I might be interested. Can I come? And he's like, yeah, do it. I go, I can get out of the chair. I just don't, he's like, we'll get you in the boat. No problem. Come on, do it. Come. So it took me about a month to get up my guts to go. And my husband went with me. I was like, I don't know about this thing. I don't know how it's going to work. But he said, like, you went out, you're paddling, you come around, and he goes, you'd been in a chair for 2 years. You were sad, you were depressed, you were I had gained a ton of weight. And he goes, and I hadn't seen you smile in a long time. He said, you come around the bend and there you are, and you're smiling again. And he goes, I knew. We were done, cooked.
Yeah.
Right. So shortly after that, I bought an outrigger canoe, which is a 1-person canoe. And he was just like, oh God, here we go. Because I can't carry it. It's 17 pounds and people
Right.
carry it on their shoulder.
Right.
So I was like, you carry it for me?
Yeah.
He's like, now my husband doesn't swim. So he's all about like, okay, I'll put it in the water and I'll just push you out and you go do your thing. So that was the first step towards outrigger. And then I joined a 6-man outrigger team, which is amazing.
Wow. You said you're in a wheelchair for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Why were you in the wheelchair?
Well, I had I don't experience a lot of pain with cerebral palsy, and usually when I have pain, it's because I'm resisting something. But there was a period of time when I was in excruciating pain. I mean, excruciating. I was a teacher. I would drive up to to the school. I would take 6 ibuprofen. I would get out of the car. I'd struggle my way to the classroom. At lunchtime, I'd take 6 more ibuprofen, struggle back to the car at the end of the day, take 6 more. I'm like, I was
What was hurting?
my one ankle, especially my left ankle, and the doctors put a boot on it. I mean, I went to like, I think I went to like 5 different specialists. Everybody like, we don't know, we don't know, we don't know. Um, and what I realized later was that they kept looking for something about cerebral palsy that was wrong. Now, I had had, a bilateral fusion many years ago, 35 years ago, and there was all kinds of hardware in there, bolts
In
and screws
in where?
in my ankles.
Okay.
So my ankles have no motion. They don't move.
Yeah.
So then they said, "Oh, we need to take the hardware out." So I had surgery. They took the hardware out, still had pain. I mean, they just kept trying all these different things. And the doctors finally came to the conclusion they were going to amputate my left leg at the knee. And I was like, "Holy, okay, that's pretty big."
How
Right.
many years ago was this?
This was 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
So this is like how you're living with cerebral palsy as an adult, really
Yeah.
all the consequences of, okay.
Yeah. So my general practitioner that really didn't have anything to do with cerebral palsy, she said to me, "Renee," she said, "Wouldn't a wheelchair chair be better than an amputation?" And I fought using a chair. I mean, it's very typical for someone with cerebral palsy to be encouraged to use a chair, and I had fought it by this time for,
Well,
50
you had
years.
done 16 triathlons up to that point,
Yeah.
right? You're swimming, you're biking, you're running,
Yeah.
you're doing all of these athletic things, right? Getting through your life as normal as you can, as normal as you could. And then all of a sudden, you just have this pain in your leg.
Yeah.
And they're like, not only are they like, put me in a wheelchair, or not only like, we need to put you in a wheelchair, but they're also like, well, we want to cut off your leg.
Yeah. I mean, and I went to specialist after specialist, and that's what they finally concluded. A group of doctors concluded. And 2 of the doctors that I had seen had been at one of the triathlons. So in my chart, there's a picture of me. There happened to be a small little newspaper here in Long Beach that posted a picture of me, and the byline was last is best because I came in last place. I didn't care. But I was in so much pain. I mean, there was one particular day I had a staff meeting at work, and I thought I gotta leave early because I'm gonna have to crawl to my car.
Oh, wow.
So I left the meeting early. I kind of scaled the walls of the school until there wasn't any more walls. And then I crawled across the parking lot to my car and I think I called my mom, and she was like, I think this is you, but I can't tell. I see your number, but I was crying so hard because I was just so done. I didn't know what to do. So at that point, I decided, okay, let's try the chair.
Now it's time for What's the Buzz, presented by BuzzRx. Every week, I answer a health-related question from one of our viewers. This week's question: Dr. Rutland, I'm on Lipitor for my cholesterol and off grapefruit. Why can't I eat grapefruit? Grapefruit is delicious. Great question. Here's the answer. Remember how our body works. Your liver is responsible for breaking down all of the molecules that you consume. There's an enzyme in your liver called CYP3A4. It basically breaks down molecules. Grapefruit happens to inhibit that enzyme. But what about the statin? Statins are actually metabolized from this enzyme. And so if you inhibit the breakdown of the statin, the concentration increases in your serum, which gives you more side effects like those muscle aches. That's the buzz. If you have a question, email us at healthexchangepodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again to BuzzRx. Look up your medications on buzzrx.com or the app to see how much you can save. And what was the diagnosis eventually of the foot?
They never even figured it out. I figured out that it was probably plantar fasciitis because it went away
With the chair,
with
just
the chair.
being off of the joint. So here's what people probably don't think about is you have cerebral palsy, right? Which we know is as a result of some dysfunction in the brain, some damage in the brain. with spastic, right, cerebral palsy, you have your joints, which are constantly flexed. And she has lower extremity joints that are constantly flexed. So if you can imagine throughout your life, you're walking on these joints that are constantly flexed. So you're putting a significant amount of pressure at these joints, at the knee joint, at the ankle joint. Probably what led to her ankle fusion is probably that. But you have years and years of wear and tear on these joints, and you get this joint degeneration, right? You get muscle fatigue, you get chronic pain, all these things happen. And so what Renee is saying is when they put her in the chair, she got to rest the joints, right? Because everything was just kind of chilling out for a while.
Yeah.
But during your childhood, you didn't really feel any of this pain. You were just walking around.
I had 24 surgeries over the course of about 15 years. So there was always pain after surgery. I used to walk up on my toes. And so I remember having pain as a kid. I just, I didn't experience a lot of pain as an adult. I had never experienced that kind of pain where getting up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night I gotta crawl
Well,
because I
you can't put
can't
any pressure
put
on
any
that.
pressure.
So what has cerebral palsy taught you about like creativity, body awareness, mental toughness?
Like I said earlier, I don't see myself as disabled most of the time, right? But there are times when you're sort of faced with yourself, right? I have really, really skinny legs,
Mm-hmm.
right? But one of the things that I do is twice a week I see a functional trainer, and he is CSCS trained. He's highly trained and not cheap, right? But he has built up the muscles in my calf. So now I'm like, oh, I have calves. Isn't that amazing? My legs don't look so weird. The shoe choices that every event, it's not about what I'm gonna wear. It's like the damn shoes. Because they don't make shoes
I know that
that
feeling.
are
It's the damn
comfortable
shoes.
for somebody like me.
Yeah.
My feet are very wide. Um, I can't wear any kind of a heel. These shoes have zippers, they're made by a guy who has a disability actually.
Oh, wow.
Um, so those were the things that impacted me more than anything else is what am I going to wear that is going to get me through a long day of teaching or a double day of teaching because I would teach in the all day and then I would go to the college and I'd teach at night. Those were the things that sort of got in my way, I guess. One of my friends recently had an injury and she wasn't able to run and was her leg was bothering her and she goes, Renee, she goes, now I understand why you get everywhere early. And I didn't even realize that that's something I do. I get everywhere early because I don't know how long it's going to take me to walk from one place to another place. And I'm not a person who's going to be late. So, hence I alter my life so that I'm always early. There's probably things over the course of my life that I haven't chosen to do because I don't know if this will do that. Now, the older I've gotten, the more it's been like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Right now, the outrigger team that I'm on, you can't race unless you can what they call boat up. So an outrigger, a 6-man outrigger will flip over in ocean conditions, and you have to be able to get yourself back in, which means that you gotta come up to the side of the boat, you've got to press with all your weight, and you gotta flop in. Well, so far I can't do that. I have a very strong upper body, but I tried all these different things and I can't do it yet. Now, lucky for me, the team is so patient and everybody, oh, try this, try that, try this. You know, um, they have, they cheer for me, they're hang in there with me, but it's really annoying sometimes that because I forget that I'm disabled, why can't I just do this? Right? Why can't I just, you know? Um, and my body has limitations. And so that gets in the way sometimes.
So two follow-up questions. The first question is, what happens when you do flip over and you're in the water? And the second question is, how have you handle all of that emotionally? Because this is the first time I sensed a little bit of frustration where you're like,
Yeah, there's
well, I
some
can't, you know.
there's some definite frustration there. Um, that I haven't flipped over because I haven't raced, right? So it's it in that way, not being able to what they call boat up has kept me from racing.
Mm.
That's a huge issue for me because I want to race. I want to be out there. I want to be going for it like everybody, you know? But I'm not willing to put anybody else in jeopardy, right? The sharks can eat me, but I'm not going to let them eat my teammates,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, there's some frustration there. Um, but I mean, people have said funny things like, yeah, you just need somebody right there, right behind you going, shark. And then the adrenaline will get you back in the boat.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope eventually, I know because I'm determined and stubborn and all of that, that I'll get in that boat.
Yeah.
But and I'm thankful for a team that's patient enough to let me to keep trying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Wow. So eventually, because of your spastic cerebral palsy, you also ended up needing knee replacements, right?
yeah, yeah.
When did you start having pain there? And then you were like, what is this pain? And then eventually got x-rays and CT.
So with the first knee, I didn't have pain, but it would give out.
Mm.
I would be walking to my classroom and I would be down, like down. And then I was like, okay, this is not, does not work for me, especially when you're teaching kids. I was teaching first grade, kindergarten. You don't want to go down in front of kids, they freak out. So with the first knee, it wasn't pain. It was that it wouldn't hold me anymore. This first knee was replaced when I was 48, I think, which is pretty young
Yeah.
for a knee replacement, but it had to be done because I just couldn't risk that going down just wherever, you know? But then with the second knee, I started having pain and it wasn't holding me. And that's when I went into my orthopedic surgeon and I said, it's time. And he goes, oh, no, I think you have about a year. I go, oh, no, no, I don't. I don't have time to slow down my life because this knee won't hold me anymore. But I've met probably hundreds of people that need to have knee replacement that don't do it because they're afraid or because I'm going to wait a little longer or whatever. And I just tell people all the time, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. I mean, this knee, I was in the hospital for 3 days. This knee, I was probably there for 3 hours. I mean, it was like so fast, right?
Yeah.
And so the healing was quick and they get you up and you're walking and you're going, you know, I mean,
Why would you tell these individuals just to do it? What was it about the knee replacement that you were just like, oh my gosh, why wouldn't you do this?
well, what happens when you're in any kind of pain or discomfort is your life starts to get smaller. My life started to get smaller. Oh, I'm not going to go shopping. I'm not going to get groceries. I'm not going to paddle. I'm not, you don't even realize how many I'm not going to because of the discomfort in the knee. And as soon as it's done, my life it expands back. It's like a rubber band. Like, okay, now and so it makes me feel sad. The other night I was at a restaurant and there was a woman, on one side and on the other, both of them going back and forth about, oh, I've been waiting. I've been waiting. Oh yeah, I don't do anything anymore. Oh, I don't, my husband does, da, da, da. And I'm thinking, stop, you're making your life small, get it done. The technology is so good now,
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, so don't make your life small.
Yeah.
Allow it to continue to be big,
Yeah.
which I think is a wonderful mantra to live by. So we're gonna transition into what we call lightning round.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna call this fast stroke.
Okay.
All right. Now I want you to think of it like a final sprint in the dragon boat race. So
Okay.
short questions,
Quick.
fast answers. Do not overthink.
Okay.
All right. I want
Okay.
the first thing comes to your head.
Got
All
it.
right. So what's a quote or mantra that you live by?
Movement is medicine.
What motivates you when no one's watching?
The drive. I have drive.
What's your favorite part of a race? The start, the middle, or the final push?
Oh, it's definitely the final push. Definitely the let's go. Come on.
What makes a great teammate?
Somebody who's coachable. Somebody who listens.
One thing you wish more people understood about adult cerebral palsy.
Oh, it's not a death sentence.
What part of rehab surprised you most?
really it was all the people who wouldn't do what the doctor said to do.
Wow.
So many people wouldn't do it. They wouldn't go to therapy. They wouldn't, oh, that hurts. That hurt. I was like, oh, wow.
Jeez. You've coached so many people. What's one thing you learned from your athletes?
I think some people have it and some people don't.
How do you tell the difference between the two?
It's pretty easy.
Most epic travel destination dragon boat racing has taken you to?
The most fun place has been Puerto Rico. When we go to Puerto Rico, we race on a team where everybody's welcome and everybody, you race with a bunch of people you don't know, and you meet them in the morning and you're racing with them, half an hour later, and it's just a blast.
What's one word you'd use to describe living with cerebral palsy?
It's me. It's me.
When you think about your time, and it sounds like you've had a pretty normal life. You got married?
Twice.
Oh, you've been married twice. Oh my gosh. I almost want to ask him. So you're you got two sons
Yeah.
from the first marriage, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
and you bared your children
Yeah.
on your own, had children.
That was interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
It was really difficult.
Yeah, and the doctors didn't know. They didn't know anything about it. They were like, "I don't know. I don't know if your body's gonna do what it's supposed to do." And I mean, I had one anesthesiologist ask me, "How did you get pregnant?" I'm like, "Really? Really?"
He asked you, how did you get
Yeah.
pregnant?
I was like, do you mean like what position was I? Because I'm a newlywed. My mom's like wanting to get under the table, but I was like, I don't even know what you're asking. You're a doctor. Like, so weird.
So you had your two boys from the first marriage,
Yeah.
I'm guessing, and they're older.
They're older.
They're in the area. And then you got married again.
Yeah, yeah.
How long you been married this time?
I was married 14 years the first time, 15 years this time.
Congratulations on beating your record.
Thanks. Yeah, exactly. um, but and when I got married the second time, I said to my husband, I said, do your friends like ask you any questions? Do they want to know anything about this person who has this disability? Do they want to know what it's called? Any of that? And he was like, no. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with them? They should ask some questions.
Yeah.
But most of his friends, like, it wasn't a question that they felt they needed to ask, which I thought was interesting, but it's not something I'm gonna die of,
Yeah.
so that I guess that was all they needed to know.
When you walk into a doctor's office and you're going to see them for a cough, do you want me to acknowledge that you have cerebral palsy, or do you want me to just look at your cough and think about where the cough can be from?
If I think it has to do with my cerebral palsy, I'll tell you. Otherwise, it's just a cough.
So don't mention it at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not necessary.
When it comes to the emotional ability to handle everything that you have to absorb throughout your life, do we ask you about that in our visit?
I think so. I think especially in this day and age where mental health is such um, a I would call it a bigger, better focus, right? It's something we ignored for so long that, of course, disability has an effect sometimes on someone's mental health. One of the nights when I couldn't get in that damn boat, I got in my car and I just like I need a minute because you're my body's betraying me again, and it's frustrating. It's hard. You feel sad. I don't have those moments very often, but every once in a while I have a moment where it's like I just want to be like everyone else. Damn it, right? It's like that period at the end. That doesn't happen for me very much, but it happens sometimes.
Was there ever a time where you wanted to harm yourself or just end your own life?
No, I I'm feisty, and I just there's hard things. There's hard things in raising two boys. Mostly I raised them alone. I mean, my when I got married the second time, my second husband has not had any kids. And so there were times where it's like, okay, you need to not get involved in this. This is something I'm doing. I'm raising these boys, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, like, something's going on and you're like, save it. Like,
Well,
I got
yeah, because I didn't need I didn't need that in their relationship. And um, part of the reason that marriage number one failed was because we saw things so different as parents that raising my boys by myself was way easier. So, and I told my husband my second husband, when I married him, I said, look, you've got to be willing to be number three. I've got 2 boys, they are my world, and if you can't be number 3, then I'm not the one for you. Then my granddaughter came, I said, "Oh, now you're number 4, sorry." You know? But, that was something we had that conversation because that's real, because that's how it's going to be. Those children came out of my body, and not easily, I might add.
So you had them both naturally.
No, I had C-section
C-section
both
from
times,
okay.
yeah. With my oldest, we found out that my body just wasn't gonna go into labor,
Yeah.
and so with the second one, we just planned the C-section,
Right.
so
Did they play sports growing up?
terribly.
They were awful
They're
athletes?
awful, and they only did it because I wanted them to. They weren't into it. The snacks and the uniforms, that's it. So, even still, I mean, I watch all sports. I feel like I could coach any sport out there.
So speaking of coaching, going through surgeries and having these massive recoveries, and I don't wanna say massive, I guess.
Well,
You had
sometimes they were.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
tell me about that experience of going through those recoveries with your knee replacement, with your fusion surgery, with all of that. Tell me about that experience.
Well, when I was little, every time I had a surgery, I thought the doctors were gonna fix me. And so you come out of anesthetic and you think, okay, now I'm normal, right? Now everything will be okay, right? But of course, as an adult, I knew better, right? It's going to be better because my leg's gonna hold me up better. Or it's with the fusion. I mean, I had the fusion when my oldest son was 2 years old, and I had no idea what to expect. It was a 10-hour surgery. I didn't come out of anesthetic well. I was for 3 days, I didn't have a blood pressure, so they thought I was a goner. I saw every
Yeah.
pastor I ever knew in my whole life.
I can tell you this from experience in the ICU with CP patients. I go through same thing.
Yeah, it
Like,
is.
they don't have like, you don't know if they're perfusing or not sometimes.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, I vaguely remember, honestly, every pastor I'd ever seen, and I'm thinking, "I'm dying right now.
Yeah.
They're not telling me,
Yeah.
but I'm not coming out of this thing."
Yeah.
Right? So, there's always that concern, like the anesthetic and how that's gonna go, but I now as an adult, I can say when I had this knee done, I said to my doctor, I said, "Look, I don't come out of anesthetic well, so we need to be cautious about that and, the minimal amount you can use," but now I can voice all of that, and I have a much more realistic view of how it's going to be after. I'm still going to have CP, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to come out of it like, "Woo,
Yeah.
okay, I'm
Yeah.
healed now."
Yeah, I can
You know?
boat I can get into the
Yeah,
boat.
yeah,
So, when you think about what you've been doing in Long Beach,
yeah.
right? You've done the dragon boat racing. You're a huge advocate. You're talking to multiple people. You've inspired multiple people. What do you like best about the life you're living right now?
I think that I give a voice to something that doesn't have a lot of voice. I think people with disabilities are still discriminated against in all aspects. I think many people with disabilities feel like they should be quiet, or who's going to listen, or if I speak up, then that's negative, or I'm going to, um, I need to have a job, so I'm not going to say anything. And I live that too, right? That I needed, even though in education as a teacher, I knew there was some level of security. I didn't speak up about certain things that were basically BS because I needed that job. And so I think now I can speak freely. Being retired helps because I'm not going to lose my job because I speak out about things that are unjust in education, things that are not being done right on behalf of kids with disabilities. Because somebody has to say, no, no, this isn't okay. And I have a really, really good life but I also have a responsibility to say things when they need to be said, I think.
And you being retired allows you to say whatever you want,
Yeah.
whenever you want to,
Yeah,
and you love that.
I do. I
What
do.
what was the what was the first thing you said when you retired, when you were like, "You know what? I can say whatever I want now." Boom. Like, what was the number one thing you wanted to say in regards to CP?
That I was not treated right in my home.
Wow. By your siblings and your parents.
Mhm.
Why do you say that? Like, what
Di
was it that was not right?
disability people with disabilities, children with disabilities are often mistreated inside of their homes. And I don't talk about that, but that was a harsh reality for me. And it happened during a time and a place when you just didn't say anything.
Yeah, in a place where you're supposed to feel safe, but
Mhm.
you didn't feel safe enough.
Not at all. Not at all. And it happens a lot to kids with disabilities, and sometimes it happens to kids that don't have a voice, you know? I don't have a body that works great, but I have a voice that works just fine.
So all that anger that you had when you were a teenager probably stemmed from some of that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because it's just what we did in those times is you paint your family and your life like it's just all wine and roses, especially if you grow up in a religion. Oh, you march into church and you sit in the same place and you keep your mouth shut and you just, when you know that there's things going on that all these people don't see, right?
Did you forgive your siblings ever for mistreating you?
Yeah,
You talked to them about it?
I did, and, even my parents, there's a lot of denial, in situations like this where it's like, "No, no, that's not how it was. No, no, you don't remember things right." Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It happened. It's over, but if we don't talk about it, guess what? It continues.
And so you want people to be okay talking about this because it's something that can change
Yeah, it's
and should
it's
change.
definitely changeable, and as parents get more support, as they know that one of the things people say, "Oh gosh, I really want you to meet this person or that person that has CP or has I wanna talk to the parents because I want parents to have hope. Because if you're raising a child with a disability that's hard, that's all you see. Your world becomes that, right? And I wasn't hard in the sense I was a good student and I worked hard and you know, one of the parts of cerebral palsy that we never talk about is that it's a there's muscle dysfunction, and my
Malfunction.
bladder, which is a muscle, did not function well. And so I had accents all the time. Well, my parents thought it was on purpose. They thought I was doing it to make them angry. And I didn't until I understood it better, I couldn't say like, "I'm trying, I'm trying," you know? Every time you went to the grocery store, "Where's the bathroom at?" Every time you go here or there, because I knew I couldn't get there. A, because I didn't move very fast, and B, because my bladder didn't do what it was supposed to do. So there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of upset, there was a lot of frustration towards me because I was annoying them or embarrassing them. We need to talk about that because it's n kids with disabilities don't typically do things just to make their parents mad, right?
Right. I mean, yeah.
Typical things that kids do, right? But it's not something you set out to do as a person with a disability. I think I'll just make my mom and dad mad today,
Yeah.
and I'll do this.
But when you had those people that were doing those things, you probably had plenty of people that were helping you.
Oh, yeah.
Either.
Oh, yeah, there were homes that I felt safe in, there were friends that were welcoming and open, and, I have one friend, and I didn't know it's a friend of my parents, but we always went to the beach in the summertime, the bay in the summertime, and he would take me out on this little boat, this little flat red boat, and he would take me out there, and he would just spend time with me and talk to me, and I didn't when I talked to him about it later, he said, "Yeah," he said, "I knew that I couldn't stand up to your parents. I couldn't say anything to them, but I could take you out on a boat in the middle of the water and give you safe space for a little bit of time."
And that was when you were younger.
Yeah, and then as
A
I got
boat
older,
on the water is
boat
where
in
you
the
felt
water.
safe,
Yeah, that's where I felt safe, which now
which
it
makes
makes
perfect
sense.
sense, right?
Now I spend a lot of time in boats.
What would you say to that person that helped you right now? If you could
Um,
talk to him today.
still do talk to him, and even as an adult, he would come to the beach sometimes, and he'd go, "Renee, let's go for a swim," and we'd swim out in the middle, and we would talk about my life, right? We talk about what was going well, what was, you know, um, again, because we were out in the water and we were safe, and so I just think he was, uh he didn't know. He didn't know that he was doing these things so intentionally to save me, but that's really what he was doing. He was telling me, "Oh yeah, you're not so bad. There's normalcy for you. There's people who see you." You know, I felt seen by him. I felt understood, you know. And he did in a time and a place where you didn't speak out and you didn't say anything and he did what he could do to provide me just that place of safety, you know?
It's powerful.
It is.
That's really cool
It
to
is.
hear that
Yeah.
someone in your life made you feel heard
Yeah.
and safe,
Yeah, and safe and seen. Yep.
which is what we all search for.
Everybody wants.
And, again, one of
It's
the
the reason why we have a mental health crisis because people don't feel seen, heard, understood. You can have a really hard childhood and you can overcome that and you can become somebody. I I had an older brother and he lived in the land of victim. He grew up in the same household as I did and he had a hard life and he turned to drugs. And I remember having a conversation with him at one point and I said, "But we're adults now. We can choose differently." And I chose differently. I chose, to live a full life, to do the things I wanna do, it's one of the reasons I retired is like, okay, education kinda going crazy, but I still want to live a full life. I don't wanna and people were dying around me. I'm like, "Oh, no, that I did not work for this long
yeah,
to die. I worked for this long to play,"
yeah.
you know?
And now you're playing,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's as positive as it gets. I love it. I mean, I think honestly, everything that you've gone through and grown through is, represented by what you do now. And you're smiling and you're living life. You're happy. You're on the water where you feel safe in that boat.
Yep.
I mean, you've done 16 triathlons. I've done none. And that
Shit.
right, I know it makes you feel some type of way when I have my knee pain. I'm like, oh, this is nothing, apparently. So I mean, I think it's absolutely wonderful. And normally, what we do is we have a positive pulse, and a positive pulse it's a positive story. I look at your life as, and I think you look at it this way now, even though you've been through a lot. I look at your life as that positive pulse, as an individual who has taken the way that they look at life, changed it when they were 15 years old, and said, you know what? This is happening for me, and this is what I'm going to do with it.
Yep.
And you've done so much with it. And I think that's wonderful. And I really appreciate everything you've done and everything that you're going to accomplish, because I know you're not.
There's more to come.
There's more. I know that there's more to come. Is there anything you want to say to everybody out there? Call to action, more information. What do you want to say to all the individuals with CP or without?
Yeah, I guess get out of your head and decide or choose what you want your life to look like and then go do it. Go do it. This is what limits us, not this, right? Everybody can overcome this, no matter what this gives you, you know? So that's probably my biggest message, I guess.
Where do we find you, Renee?
Well, I'm Renee Coach 03 on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, I think too. Lokahi is the name of the outrigger club, so it's Lokahi OCC.
How do you spell Lokahi?
Lokahi.
Okay.
Lokahi OCC. If you want to try out Dragon Boat, we're at Marine Stadium, and there's teams practicing on Saturdays and on Sundays. Synergy practices on Sundays. You can find us on the orange tarp at 9 o'clock on Sundays. And then keep an eye out. I am almost finished with a book. It's called My Voice Is Not Disabled. So
You guys heard it from her. Again, you got an individual who was born at 28 weeks, told that she was going to die, and let you know that she not only was not going to die, but she was going to complete 16 triathlons and innumerable dragon boat races to show you how alive she is. Really appreciate you being here. Thanks a lot.
thanks so much. You made it easy.
Thanks for watching and listening, you guys. We're on Instagram at the Health Exchange Podcast. Get us wherever you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, iHeart. We'll see you this Thursday. Take care.